The video opens with a stark side-by-side visual of Jeffrey Epstein and Sean Diddy Combs, but the narrator immediately shifts the focus to the center of the frame where Naomi Campbell stands. The narration begins by challenging the viewer's perception of celebrity coincidences. In the world of high-stakes power, there are no accidents, only intersections. For years, the public has treated the Epstein saga and the Diddy freak-off allegations as two separate entities, two different monsters in two different closets. But the narrator argues that if you look closely at the architecture of these social circles, Naomi Campbell isn't just a guest, she is the structural glue. The script emphasizes that while she has managed to maintain a pristine image as a global fashion icon, her name acts as a recurring character in the darkest chapters of modern pop culture. The narrator points out that we are currently living through a period of celebrity reckoning, where the shields of fame are finally cracking. We see a montage of Naomi's most famous photos, glamorous, untouchable, and fierce, contrasted with the grit of the unsealed Epstein flight logs. The narrator dives into the statistics to ground the conspiracy in cold, hard reality. Naomi's name appears nearly 300 times in the Epstein Files. That isn't just a casual acquaintance or a friend of a friend situation. That is a consistent, multi-decade presence in the life of a man whose entire existence was predicated on the exploitation of others. The narrator asks the audience to consider the math. How many times can you fly on a Lolita Express before you become part of the manifest? The video transitions into the Diddy connection, noting that Naomi and Diddy have shared a close, almost fraternal bond for over 2 decades. They have been photographed at the most exclusive parties on the planet, from Saint-Tropez to the Hollywood Hills. The narrator suggests that the common denominator here isn't just fame, it's access. The script paints Naomi as the ultimate gatekeeper, the woman who bridges the gap between the old world predatory circles of Epstein and the modern day shampoo parties of the music industry. By the end of this point, the narrator has successfully shifted the viewer's focus from the men in the headlines to the woman in the background. The script sets up the Kanye West factor, hinting that the most vocal man in music is the one who holds the key to Naomi's vault. The narrator's voice remains low and urgent, creating a sense of impending doom. This isn't just a gossip video, it's a presentation of a pattern. The audience is told that they are not looking at a victim of circumstance, but an architect of connections. This sets the stage for the specific, documented evidence that follows, ensuring the viewer feels that they are finally seeing the hidden map of the industry. The pacing is designed to feel like a countdown, making it impossible for the viewer to click away because they feel they are on the verge of a massive revelation. Point number 2 shifts from theory to the paper trail, and the narrator's tone becomes more clinical and accusatory. The video zooms in on the leaked emails and flight manifests that the fashion world has tried to bury. The narrator highlights a specific, haunting email from Ghislaine Maxwell to Naomi that simply says, "I have 2 playmates for you." The narrator pauses here for dramatic effect, letting the word playmate hang in the air. In any other context, it might be ignored, but in the context of Jeffrey Epstein's Little St. James, it carries a sinister weight. The script breaks down the timeline, showing that Naomi's involvement wasn't a brief lapse in judgment. It survived his first arrest. It survived his first conviction. The narrator points out the chilling fact that Naomi invited Epstein and Maxwell to her 40th birthday party in 2010, a full year after Epstein had been designated a level 3 sex offender. The narrator then dismantles Naomi's 2019 rebranding attempt. We see clips of her famous interview where she claims to be sickened and disgusted by the revelations. However, the narrator invites the viewer to look at her body language, the defensiveness, the quickness of the denials, and the lack of accountability. The script argues that Naomi's shock feels performative when compared to the decades of photographic evidence. The narrator poses a logic trap for the audience. How can someone so famously meticulous and controlling, a woman known for her diva, demands, and sharp intellect, be so oblivious to the activities of her closest friends? The video suggests that Naomi's power in the modeling industry was actually a tool for Epstein. Young, vulnerable models looking for their big break would see Naomi Campbell as a godlike figure. If she introduced them to a billionaire, why would they say no? The narrator describes this as the halo effect, where Naomi's legendary status served as a protective shield for Epstein's predatory behavior. The script then moves into the modeling peddling allegations. It references reports that Naomi allegedly acted as a scout, bringing young faces into the inner circle of powerful men under the guise of career advancement. The narrator frames this as a predatory recruitment system. This section is designed to make the viewer feel a sense of righteous anger. We aren't just talking about parties anymore. We are talking about the systematic exploitation of a profession. The narrator uses fast-paced editing to show the sheer volume of high-profile events where Naomi, Jeffrey, and Ghislaine were the three pillars of the room. The point concludes by emphasizing that the indefensible actions Naomi spoke about in 2019 were actions she was allegedly witnessing and perhaps facilitating since 2001. The narrator ends this section by stating that the Epstein files are just the tip of the iceberg, and the real iceberg is the way these tactics were allegedly transferred to the music industry and the Diddy era. In point number 3, the narrator introduces a case study that brings the predatory pattern into the modern day. The tragic story of Elsa Majimbo. The video describes Elsa as the breath of fresh air the industry needed, a young Kenyan viral star with a massive personality. The narrator explains how Naomi Campbell seemingly adopted Elsa, taking her on luxury trips to Dubai and introducing her to the who's who of the global elite. To the public, it looked like a heartwarming story of a legend passing the torch, but the narrator quickly flips the script, revealing the moment the mentorship turned into a trap. The video details the fallout that occurred when Elsa released her own documentary without Naomi's involvement. This betrayal led to Naomi allegedly blackballing the young star, but the narrator suggests the punishment went much deeper than just no more phone calls. The narrator analyzes Elsa's own words, playing clips of her describing the haywire turn her life took after the fallout. The script connects the dots between Elsa's sudden isolation and the blackballing tactics used in the Diddy and Epstein circles. The narrator argues that this is the playbook. You are brought in, you are shown the world, and then you are delivered to the hands of predators. If you refuse to play by the rules or try to claim your own independence, the machine turns against you. The narrator points out that Elsa began struggling with severe drinking problems and mental health crises almost immediately after her exit from Naomi's circle. This isn't just a celebrity feud, the narrator insists. It's a warning sign of a much more dangerous recruitment process. The script draws a direct line between the way young girls were lured by Epstein with the promise of modeling and the way upcoming stars like Elsa were lured by the promise of Naomi's mentorship. The narrator then broadens the scope to include names like Soulja Boy, Meek Mill, and Justin Bieber, noting that the Diddy pattern involves the same cycle of extreme favor followed by extreme payment. The video suggests that Naomi's mentorship of Elsa might have been a modernized version of the Playmates email from 2010. The narrator's voice becomes more intense as they describe the industry standard for silence. When Elsa went public about her struggles, she wasn't met with support, she was met with silence. The narrator tells the audience that this is how the circle protects itself, by isolating the victim and labeling them as difficult or unstable. They ensure the truth never reaches the surface. This section is designed to leave the viewer feeling a sense of deep unease. It's no longer about old files and dead billionaires. It's about the active, ongoing nature of these power dynamics. The narrator concludes by stating that if Naomi could do this to a high-profile star like Elsa, imagine what happens to the girls whose names we don't know. Point number 4 takes the viewer to the most mysterious and visual part of the story: Naomi Campbell's private island in Turkey. The narrator describes the estate, which is shaped perfectly in the form of the Eye of Horus, an ancient Egyptian symbol of protection, royal power, and health. However, in the world of internet, sleuths, and celebrity watchers, the eye has a much darker connotation. The narrator compares this island to Jeffrey Epstein's Little St. James, noting that both are private paradises that are almost impossible to monitor. The video uses overhead shots of the island to show the sheer scale of the design. The narrator explains that the house was a gift from a Russian billionaire, adding another layer of shadowy funding to Naomi's lifestyle. This isn't just a vacation home, the narrator argues. It's a statement of belonging to a specific elite group that operates outside the laws of any nation. The script delves into the symbolism of the Eye of Horus. While it can mean protection, the narrator points out that in the context of the Illuminati or occult elite theories, it represents the all-seeing eye and the control of the few over the many. The narrator doesn't claim this is a confirmed cult headquarters, but instead asks the viewer to consider the energy of the place. Why build a house that can only be understood from the sky? Why create a fortress that mimics the very symbols associated with the most controversial groups in history. The video suggests that the island is a spiritual successor to Epstein's Island, a place where the rules of the mainland don't apply. The narrator mentions that for decades, Naomi has orbited the most powerful and now most exposed people on Earth. Having a private island shaped like an occult symbol doesn't exactly help her case in the court of public opinion. The narrator concludes this section by bringing it back to the Diddy connection. Both Naomi and Diddy have cultivated a larger-than-life persona that revolves around exclusive, secretive locations. The video suggests that the Eye of Horus Island is the ultimate symbol of Naomi's untouchability. While Epstein's island was raided and Diddy's homes were searched, Naomi's island remains a shrouded paradise off the coast of Turkey. The narrator's tone is one of skepticism, suggesting that the truth about what happens inside the eye is the missing piece of the puzzle. The script emphasizes that as long as these private heavens exist, the cycle of exploitation can continue in the shadows. This point is designed to be the cinematic peak of the video, using the visual of the island to cement the idea that Naomi is operating on a level far beyond a normal celebrity. The final point of the video focuses on the ticking time bomb that is Kanye West. The narrator highlights the 14-year friendship between Kanye and Naomi, noting that they have been close through every era of each other's careers. However, the script suggests that the relationship is currently crashing down in the worst way possible. The narrator points to Kanye's recent pattern of exposing the industry's inner workings. From his claims about handlers to his outbursts about the elite, Kanye has become the loose cannon that the circle can no longer control. The narrator explains that Kanye reportedly has information that could confirm more than what we already know about Naomi's role in the Epstein and Diddy sagas. The video suggests that Kanye isn't just spilling tea. He's preparing to drop a bombshell that could dismantle the bridge between the two eras of scandal. The narrator poses a final, chilling question. Why would Kanye, who has been so loyal for so long, choose now to turn? The script suggests that it's because the walls are closing in. As the Diddy investigation widens and more names from the Epstein logs are being scrutinized by a new generation of investigators, Kanye may be looking to clear his own name by revealing the truth about those around him. The narrator describes the potential Naomi Files as the ultimate revelation. If Kanye reveals that Naomi was more than just a socialite, if he confirms the recruitment theories or the island activities, it would be the end of an era for the global elite. The video uses dramatic music and fast-paced clips of Kanye and Naomi together to show the intimacy of their bond, making the potential betrayal feel even more significant. The video concludes with a call to action that keeps the viewer engaged in the mystery. The narrator doesn't provide a final answer because in reality, the story is still unfolding. Instead, they leave the viewer in the seat of the juror. The script asks, is Naomi Campbell the ultimate survivor who simply had bad friends, or is she the most successful facilitator the industry has ever seen? The narrator encourages the audience to stick around because the truth about the Eye of Horus and the Kanye bombshell is coming sooner than anyone thinks. The final seconds of the video are designed to trigger the YouTube algorithm by encouraging comments and watch next behavior, linking to another video that gets even messier. The narrator's final words are a reminder that in the world of high fashion and high crime, the most beautiful faces often hide the darkest secrets.